and thank you, Mark, for the introduction. And Penny, thank you for being here. The good news, we get to set the stage for what's a really great day of programming here today. So I just want to jump right in and kick things off by asking you, what does sustainability mean to you and to UPS, and what are you doing, what is the company doing to achieve those objectives?
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks, Marty. And so nice to see all of you this morning. It's wonderful to be back in a room full of people speaking about these really important topics. So at UPS, we were founded in 1907 by two teenagers with $100 they got from a family friend, and they set up a bicycle messenger company in Seattle, Washington. So we started off very efficient, and we just continued to go from there. We're now 534,000 employees. We're the largest unionized employer in the United States. Our drivers, our hard-working UPS drivers, make approximately $95,000 a year, with another $50,000 of benefits on top of it. So sustainability for us is also about good jobs. We also are very focused on the communities that we serve. Jim Casey, one of our two founders, he set up the Annie E. Casey Foundation after his mother. So some of you may have heard that. We also have a UPS Foundation. We work really closely with the Chamber's Foundation on a lot of things like humanitarian relief, investment in our local communities, et cetera. So again, that's how we think about it. But last, and where I think we'll focus today, is really on the environmental piece. And there we're extremely committed to working on how we ensure that we leave the planet a better place than when we arrived.
Excellent. It's always fun to hear the origin stories of these companies we've all known for so long, and for you to then connect the dots to that origin to where you're going in the future. And by the way, thank you for bringing in the concept of the communities that we all operate in. I know that's very important to the companies you hear. But looking ahead, how does UPS balance those long-term objectives that you've set out with the need to act today?
Yeah. So, like I think a lot of us in this room, we've set some really lofty long-term goals. You need those. You need those, that North Star that you're reaching for. So we've got a 2050 carbon neutral goal. That is the goal that we have set. But we have 2025 and 2035 targets as milestones to help us get there. But at the same time, we're not waiting. And I think one piece of advice I would just leave from today is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And you gotta start somewhere. And in our case, we've started back in the 1920s with electric vehicles. And we've continued to work through and look at different vehicle types throughout the years. Some have been complete failures, but we've always kept trying. Today, we have a 40% alt fuel goal by 2025. We're at 28% of that. So 28% of the fuel we consume today is alternative fuels. And I would say, Marty, so 8% of that is kind of natural gas, compressed natural gas, but 20% of that is renewable fuels. And in most cases, it's carbon negative. So we have really dived into the pool on that front to try to make an impact where we can. About 60% of our emissions are airline. The airline is tough, so we are really focused on the 40% that we can go after today, and that's really where we're focusing ourselves.
Well, let me divert just for a moment into the policy side of that, and how several bills that have been recently enacted by Congress have provided incentives, to allow for a company like UPS to do that. And I know some of the states have done that as well. Can you comment on that at all?
Yeah, I think that's really important, because what I see is that many of us have to deal with finance departments, capital groups that internally are making the capital decisions for our companies. We're a very capital-intensive company. And when you're dealing with some of the internal financial decision-making, I have to say incentives are so helpful. They help companies make the decisions, because what we're really doing is we're moving from an OPEX, operating expense, paying for fuel environment, going over a big capital hurdle, and coming back down into what's going to be a low operating expense future, which is also a low carbon future. So in our case, those incentives really help us with that capital bump that we have to get over to continue to make sure that we're investing and moving in the right direction. So for us, incentives are important. I say that all day long to my European government friends, that the The sticks are, they may make people make some, decisions because they're going to be locked out of markets, but an incentive really helps you make the right choice. It sends the nudges in the right way, I think, for internal financial decisions. And it's hugely important for us in the journey we've been on.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts on that. You and I were talking last week, and I had the privilege of being up in Pittsburgh for the Global Clean Energy Action Forum, and I was really impressed, and have been kind of since then, that companies across sectors of all different sizes, from the biggest energy producers to the small startups, all talking about the importance of what we saw, passed by Congress. And infrastructure law, the CHIPS Act, the IRA provisions, all that are helping in that space.
Absolutely.
So UPS, with your global footprint, and you're serving companies, again, another company across all sectors.
Yeah.
Help us understand how you're working with your customers so they can help their clients, not only to help drive toward sustainability goals. Well, let's face it, there's some headwinds right now between inflation and supply chain shortages and energy issues in Europe and what have you. Just curious on how UPS is providing that assistance to your own customers.
Yeah, so a challenge is a challenge until you make it an opportunity, right? So when we talk to our customers, and a lot of what our customers are looking at, we are a customer-first, people-led, innovation-driven company at UPS. And that customer-first piece is incredibly important. Some of you in this room are probably customers of ours, and I appreciate every day when you come in and ask us to partner with you, when you push us on the things that you're trying to accomplish, because that helps also make sure that we're staying in lockstep with you and providing the things that you think are important and that you need. I think the customer piece is something that's incredibly important. People want transparency, but as soon as you give them that transparency, they're going to ask, okay, how can you help me take that down? How can you help me do the right thing? How can you help me meet my goals? And so those are all the things that we're thinking about in terms of the customer journey and how we get there. And I think that again, I think customers are really important. I also would say that I think employees are really important. And so, again, customer first, people led. Our employees make millions of decisions every day, and they can make a decision to go right or left. And I have some fantastic colleagues at UPS, and the ones that I really love and appreciate are the ones that have sustainability in their heart, and every day it's just ingrained in who they are. Being sustainable usually also means you're being efficient. So it's a win-win. But I think having that employee engagement and that employee involvement in sustainability is incredibly important, because I can't be everywhere, and you guys in this room can't be everywhere. So having all of your little deputies around really is helpful in helping hit your goals.
I think it's a really important point, and as we've seen, as we get into discussions on what will policy discussions look like in a new Congress, what have you, and keep saying is really forget about the 2, 4, and 6 year election cycles here. You've got companies that are making long-term strategic business decisions to be successful, and the pressures they're feeling are coming from investors, shareholders, and their employees, yes, among others, and that really does help to drive where we're going. Absolutely, I think I couldn't agree more. So, going up a little bit higher level again. I believe UPS is planning to be in Egypt for COP27, as is the Chamber. If any of you are planning to be there, let me know. Well, happy to meet up. It's really been focused. I mean, the focus from the U.S. government, from the Egyptian government, from the UN has been, this is the implementation COP. Here's how we're going to get things done. So, just to kind of quick question you on how UPS is viewing the opportunities that are there this year. Yeah, so I think, COP27 is going to be an interesting moment, particularly, I think what's important is to remember that a lot of these challenges we face are global. And so we're a global company. We're looking at this from a global perspective. And I think that when you think about COP27 and some of the discussions around, mitigation and some of the funding for, certain countries who may not have the means, but are having the impact,
I think those are all incredibly important discussions we need to have because climate change doesn't stop at the border. It's something that requires this international conversation to be going on, and we really need to see that engagement in a time where international engagement can be a bit challenged, I think. So for me, if we can see something come out of that and the global community come together, I mean, that's a win for us, I think.
Well, I think it gets back to your earlier point too, that whether it's sticks or incentives or what have you, opportunity to recognize that we're not going to meet any of these goals if we don't have the business community there as a full partner. And because we've got so many companies that are committed and are doing doing great things to advance the ball on sustainability, climate, emission reductions, you name it. So again, great opportunity. I guess what I want to ask you.
If I could I stop on that?
Please,
so on the public-private partnership piece, I think that's really important. We all have to come together. Civil society, companies, governments really need to come together, set common goals, and work together. None of us can do it working independently. It's something that requires all of us working together. The challenges we face are large. That little CapEx hurdle I talked about, some days it feels really steep to get up that hill. And I don't know if any of the rest of you feel that way, but sometimes that's a tough hill. But if we work together and we come together and we put together the right ecosystem, that's when we're going to see success. So I say we have to go all in on these, working together on these things. It's really important.
And that's true whether you're talking about the global context or having to build a new facility or infrastructure at the local level. And we all know we've had issues around permitting and getting things built that are needed for the clean energy transition as well as other things. So a lot of opportunity there if we do all work together. So I wanted to ask you, because you have a very positive outlook, and as you say, any kind of challenge ought to be, how do you turn it into an opportunity? What motivates you? What are the trends you're seeing that really give you hope as we move toward a more sustainable business and a more sustainable world?
Yeah, so I had recently had the experience of going on a fantastic trip to Greenland with 24 other women. And all of us were engaged in climate in some way, shape, or form, some foundation heads, others. And it's just been an amazing experience because you now have 24 people cheering you on every day. And so in this room, you guys have the opportunity today to have, 120 people that become your best friends. And as we all start to work on these issues, some days there may be setbacks, but you need those cheerleaders behind you saying, yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I feel like this trip I was on recently really re-energized and re-engaged me. And I hope that, again, coming back in person today, we all have that opportunity to find a few more folks that are aligned, that go through something similar and are there, can offer a sympathetic ear on those days when you just need to say, oh, I need a little pick-me-up. So I think that's really important. The other thing is that I think that, for me, there's again, challenges, but opportunities. And so I come out of business. There are ways to make money out of this. So if you think about digitalization, nobody in your companies is probably saying, hey, let's stick with the 8-track tapes, because that's really the wave of the future, and that's really going to be great for business. No, we're all spending tons and tons of money on digitalization. It's a similar transformation to go green. And I think that there's similar benefits in the way I think about it. I think about it as a flywheel, that the more you invest, the more customers you can attract, the more you can invest, and the more investors you can bring to you that want to invest money in you in a certain way. And there's a flywheel effect that we can develop coming out of this. And I think that that's really important. It's where the customer becomes really critical in that. That really helps you spin that flywheel inside companies. But I think that if we can unlock that and we can continue to look towards that, there are ways to really make this not just a win, but a win-win-win for us, for customers, for the planet, for governments, for everybody. So.
It reminds me of one of my favorite Teddy Roosevelt quotes, reach for the stars, but keep your feet on the ground. But Penny, you've left us with a really good, positive message and an opportunity that we all ought to, take her up on the offer and the just recognition of what we can all do individually and working together to help move this forward. So once again, thank you very much for joining us today, and look forward to the rest of the program.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.